Hi, I'm Professor Wheeler at the University of South Florida School of Accountancy. I'll be talking to you about documentation, which is showing business processes graphically.
This session is about Flowchart Basics. In other words, how to read a flowchart. Flowcharts are very important to accountants. As this PwC senior manager says, to document a process, the auditor conducts an interview, writes a narrative, and prepares a flowchart or flowcharts. So they're a standard part of the auditor's work, especially now after Sarbanes-Oxley 2002. It has re-emphasized the importance of documenting business processes and internal controls, and will require more extensive documentation than in the past, and that documentation will include flowcharts. So flowcharts are something that you're going to see often in your career, especially if you're an auditor. Accountants will see them also in manuals, presentations. The CPA exam has flowcharts. They're a standard part of the business world, especially in accounting. Okay, so what is a flowchart? A flowchart graphically depicts, in other words, symbols or pictures. It's going to depict a business process, and it can show physical aspects of the process. For example, it might show what document is being used, a purchase order, a tax form, or it can show the logical aspects or conceptual aspects. So instead of showing a paycheck, it might display pay employee. Conceptual, not physical, right? Logical. Also in the flowchart, it can show management structure, context, the different departments involved, for example. And it can include operation processes, like delivery of goods, for example. So it's very versatile and very useful in accounting. First, we'll review the basic symbols used in flowcharts. There aren't that many, and there's a handful we'll go through, maybe a few more that aren't included in this particular session. But these are the basic ones, the main ones you'll need. Okay, so here we see a trapezoid. Right, and that is a manual process. So that's something a person does. A person is doing something, and it will be described within this area here. The alternative for processing is computer processing. We have here two types: online, offline. The difference between these: online means you have a lot of computers joined together in some kind of network. Offline are standalone computers. So here we got the rectangle and the square for those two different processes. Going in and out of the processes will be flow lines containing information or documents, digital documents, paper documents. You'll notice there's an arrowhead. That's very important. That shows the direction the information is flowing. If the connection between processes happens to be something like the internet, you can use this lightning strike symbol, or you could use this also. Either one's acceptable. And another important symbol is our start-stop symbol. It's an oval, and this usually occurs at the beginning of a flowchart. It's the event or person that kicks off the flowchart process, and it will also be where things end up often. And we'll see that in a minute. But it is an important symbol, and it usually occurs around the edges of the flowchart. Like I said, think where things start and where things stop. A few more symbols here. So the information itself, the data, is carried on various types of media. Here we have permanent paper document. Here we have another symbol, more common actually. This is usually for temporary documents like purchase orders, forms, paychecks. Here, like I said, this is meant to be something permanent. So this could be list of vendors, price list, things that don't change a lot or often. Okay, and again, it's okay. This is a more universal symbol. You could actually use this all the time and leave this out completely if you wanted to. So that's where paper type information is stored on these things, these two symbols. For computers, we store data digitally, right, on a computer disk, generally. And that's the drum here. So that's our random access disk that we know about in computers. To store paper documents, we have this nice little triangle here, paper storage. So this is a file cabinet. The papers are just going to get filed inside the drawers and folders, whatever. Okay, a couple more symbols we need. For computer system, this is our manual input. So this is kind of supposed to be the side view of a keyboard. And the data from a piece of paper or over the telephone is being entered into the computer. Data entry person's typing it in, and it's going to go on some kind of computer storage thing like that, like a disk. So you might have, an order form is sent to the company, and the order information is typed into the computer. So there's our first kind of basic flowchart. And this is the monitor, what you're looking at now. So side view again of the older type monitors that were pretty bulky. Alright, so let's actually read a flowchart. You see here I got a lot of areas left blank, so we can kind of walk through it systematically. We are going to be looking at inventory acquisition, ordering inventory. Right, pretty basic process. We have to identify that we need inventory, we're running low. So a request is made, then that request is sent out to the supplier or vendor, right? Then the vendor sends us the items we ordered over here in receiving, and then the vendor also sends us a bill that we need to pay. So you can see first of all like I said, the management structure. We got 4 departments. We got inventory control, purchasing, receiving, and accounts payable. And any symbol, any process that's done by this particular department goes under that column. And even if there's a gap in the time, like here you see 2 things here occurring in inventory control, but they're spread apart in time. And again, you'll notice kind of on the outside of everything, we see things like these ovals, right? These termination symbols. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So it all starts, like we said, purchase requisition. So here's our paper symbol. You notice there's 2 copies, polycolor copies, a white one and a yellow one, sent to different areas in the company. Okay, so one copy is going to go over to purchasing, copy number 2. And the other copy is in our rectangle, right? Triangle, sorry, triangle. So that is our storage device for paper, our file cabinet. The C means chronological, and down here you can see there's a legend provided with those abbreviations. So it's going to be filed chronologically. And we'll see something else occurs here later, obviously, another arrow coming in. Okay, so it gets us through that. So you created 2 documents or received 2 documents, and then you just trace them through to where they end up. That's the important thing. Don't leave documents floating around inside the company. Put them somewhere. File cabinet, send them off to an oval, a termination. Clean that up a minute. Okay. So purchasing, next step. Purchasing has received the purchase requisition. They prepare the purchase order from that purchase requisition. Basically, they're going to take the information on the requisition, what you need to order, how much, and just match it up with the vendor. You could show that in more detail here if you wanted to, which is an important point to make, that with the flowchart, you're always going to have to leave out some detail. It's just up to you and your audience. Who are you actually telling this, who are you presenting this narrative to, this flowchart? What do they know? What can you assume they know? Alright, so the number 2 purchase requisitions taken by this person, manually processed, and is made into a purchase order. 5 copies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have 5 new documents. We need to trace them through. We take each document one at a time, show where it goes in the company or outside the company. So let's start with the first one. Alright, so makes sense. The first one, the original, is going to go to the vendor. So there we are outside the company, the oval, right? It's mailed off to the vendor. These are paper, so they're going to be mailed. And you'll notice in here everything is paper symbols. There's no computer symbols in this particular example. Alright, so that takes care of number 1. We're done with that one. Make a check mark there, sort of. Okay, number 2 goes to A. What is A? This is an unpaged connector symbol. So we find the matching A, which happens to be up here in receiving. So copy number 2 is going to go to receiving. Our matching A to A here. So A goes to A. Purchasing is going to send a copy of the purchase order to receiving. This one's called a blind copy. This is an internal control that can be used. So they're going to erase things or not send the information on things like the cost of the items, how many items are being sent, and that way the loading dock people will not be tempted to steal expensive items, or maybe not give an honest count, just do an estimate. The internal control feature here you can use with this document. Alright, so receiving gets copy 2. Alright, so let's go in with copy 3. We got 1 and 2 taken care of. 3 goes to B. So again, on-page connector, so find your matching B is up here. Alright, so accounts payable, our accountants get in the picture now. Account payable is going to get a copy. Alright, so we got that 1, 2, and 3 taken care of. Let's go to 4. 4, see this kind of jumps over that line there. It's going back here to inventory control. Another internal control use of our documents right there. So they are going to take the purchase order, match it to the purchase requisition, and check and make sure the right items and the right number of items got ordered. That's the whole point there, is an internal control. But you notice also we're filing these documents as we go along. So we're creating an audit trail, which is where number 5 goes of the purchase requisitions. Right there. So we got an audit trail building up. Each major step in this process of ordering is going to have documentation that is saved. Alright, so we've taken care of the 5 documents. Let's go on. So we have over here, remember, receiving. Now they receive the goods. Trucks pulled up to the loading dock. Things are delivered. So they are now going to prepare manually. Again, we see a manual symbol. Everything in this flowchart is manual, no computer steps. So they receive the goods. They're going to check, unload them, check how many there are, etc., and fill out a receiving report. right, in 4 copies here. 1, 2, 3, 4 again. Go into different areas. One is filed, right? So we continue our audit trail, our paper trail of all the events. The second one goes to C, right over there, right? C to C. And here again, we're doing an internal control feature here. We're going to check what we ordered from the purchase order against what we received in the receiving report. Should be the same, right? 3 goes to D. Where is D? D's up here, accounts payable. So now they've received the receiving report. Earlier they got the purchase order. So they're waiting on this. That hasn't shown up yet. And E goes back over here to inventory control. Just find the matching E to E. And so what are they doing? Now that the goods have actually arrived, they can make a journal entry into the inventory ledger and record, update their inventory. New items have arrived. They can increase their inventory. And our last step here is with the accounts payable, right? So they've sent us, the vendor has sent us the goods. Now they're going to send us a bill for the goods. So this comes in maybe at the same time as the goods. Accounts payable is going to reconcile those 3 documents. What we ordered, what we received, and what they charge us for should be the same. So they're comparing. And if they are the same, they're going to do 2 things. They're going to make some journal entries and get things ready for the payment. Right, so they can make a journal entry in purchase journal. And here, this is a symbol we haven't seen before. It's a voucher, journal entry voucher, paper symbol, debit credit to general ledger. So they send journal entries over there to general ledger. I'm not going to go into the details about the journal entries. This is mainly about flowcharts today. Another file. Right, so all of these documents are actually stapled together and put inside this file. And they look and see when do we have to make the payment. And when the payment is due, they pull it out, prepare the check, and send it over to the cashier, who will sign the check and send it to the vendor. So as you can see, it's not that difficult with a little practice, a little memorization of symbols to read a flowchart. Thank you.